Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that an ambassador figure embodying our country's cultural, political and social wrath on foreign soil drew upon the enduring memory of our ancestors' deportation to exact personal vengeance on behalf of the race. We are about to savor this sublime cultural epic with that singular genius of oral storytelling, Maurice Sixto, in I Avenged The Race. In 1965, I was arriving at the Paris Opera, which had just regained its youth and beauty. The somber cloak that the years had cast over the famous shoulders of this grand lady no longer concealed the elegance of her silhouette. At the time, Mr. André Malraux, General de Gaulle's Minister of Culture, was having various historic buildings and monuments in the city of Light restored. Yet, as I passed along Rue Thibault, I could see that the author of Man's Faith, for all his good intentions, could not undo the irreparable damage inflicted by pigeons and the passage of time upon the old building that housed our embassy. The headquarters of our mission had not changed its appearance since the time, a few years earlier, when I had visited our ambassador in the company of 3 friends. We were received, I recall, by a French usher who told us, with a touch of solemnity, His Excellency will certainly see you, but you will need to be patient, for the gentleman is very tired. I did not lack a smile, having worked for some time at 2 foreign embassies in Port-au-Prince. I could confidently tell my friends that I had never met a single diplomat suffering from anemia due to overwork. Perhaps that deadpan official wanted to remind us that an embassy is often just a reward for laziness. Like a master of ceremonies, he invited us to take a seat in the main drawing room. And there we waited for a good hour or more. Suddenly, a door opened. Out stepped our ambassador, monumental and majestic, like a Zairian chief of the Baluba tribe. Draped in a dressing gown as red as the wrath of the oppressed, he didn't spare a single glance for the 4 visitors awaiting him. He was too preoccupied with seeing out an alluring young blonde who was trying, with an air of feigned innocence, to hide what my friends and I could easily guess. After saying his goodbyes, he hushed, in hushed tones, naturally turning away from that delightful creature. The ambassador addressed us. My dear friends, I know I have kept you waiting. But listen closely, gentlemen. when you learn that I have just been working on your behalf, that I have just avenged you, when you learn that I have just relived the epic of 1804 here on the bank of the Seine, you will share in my satisfaction, my pride, and my joy. Without even giving us a chance to get a word in, he continued. I was strolling through the Latin Quarter this morning, gentlemen. Upon reaching Boulevard Saint-Michel, I was drawn by the glint of a gold brooch sparkling on the ample bosom of a lovely lady. Through a quick association of ideas, I remembered that I needed to get a copy of Romance aux Étoiles by Jacques Alexis, that excellent writer who burst into our literature and that of the entire world like a meteor while still alive. I headed toward the nearest bookstore. A happy coincidence. Did Cocteau not say that superstition is the art of coming to terms with coincidences? Indeed, gentlemen, some coincidences are signs. I happened to be standing right next to that captivating young Parisian woman who just left. She was holding Romance aux Étoiles in her lovely hands. Incredible, but true. I leaned toward her and said, Mademoiselle, seeing you with the very book that led me here, I feel like Pyrrhus before Hector's widow. And a line from Racine that I dearly love is ringing in my mind and heart. Will you tell me? I can refuse you nothing. Are you seeking me, madame? Might I be allowed such a charming hope? Please, mademoiselle, I offer you this volume. Do me the great pleasure of accepting it in the name of Dr. Jacques Alexis, whose thought catalyzed our unforgettable meeting. Those two vicious lips parted to reveal 2 rows of tears as she thanked me. She made me feel as alive as I had been at 23. Without wasting a moment, I invited her for a drink across the street at the Café du Luxembourg. She didn't need to be asked twice. And there at the table, she struck up a conversation by asking, have you ever read Romance aux Étoiles? Of course, but lately I've been doing research to prepare a plea for the defense and rehabilitation of the Indians on the island where I serve as ambassador. Ah, so you are the ambassador from Haiti? At your service, mademoiselle. And you are speaking of the Indians, of the island's first inhabitants, the true masters of the land, who paid far too high a price for that misadventure we still call the discovery of America. This misadventure, You are well aware that the three ships, the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, were heading east, and some evil spirit, no doubt for his own amusement, diverted them westward. This was to the great misfortune of the Indians who lived happily on their dream island. This island is often compared to an emerald fallen from God's ring into the Caribbean Sea. It was a cataclysm for the Indians, a thunderbolt in a clear sky to see adventurers land with a cross in one hand and a rifle in the other to exterminate them in the name of religion and civilization. Forced to work day and night in the mines, the Indians suffered the most unimaginable mistreatment. Christopher Columbus was the first to establish slavery on the island of Hispaniola with the repartimientos. Queen Isabella, dreaming of the spices of Asia, sold her jewels to finance this famous expedition and simultaneously prepare a catastrophe. Upon the arrival of the Spaniards, there were 2.5 million Indians on the island. 5 years later, brace yourself, I beg you, there were only 2,000 left. The Cacique Henry had retreated to the heights of Cibaro with the 2,000 survivors of the disaster of the Discovery. They had taken a desperate yet heroic stand against the barbarians who had decimated an entire race. These 2,000 Spartans of the Ararat tribe all perished standing tall, rage in their hearts. And we must salute them, mademoiselle, as the first freedom fighters in the Americas. These peaceful beings, believe me, savored the joy of living free each day amidst an explosion of light, greenery, and flowers. Did not Queen Isabella herself swear not to remove her petticoat until the Moors had either been exterminated or driven beyond the borders? She was right to keep her word, for there is talk of her beatification. Soon she will be in the martyrology. I deeply regret that an exceptional indigenous woman, an exquisite, intelligent woman whose poems, songs, and music have come down to us, an extraordinary woman betrayed incidentally by the cross of Alcantara and cowardly condemned to the gallows by monster. I regret. I say that the beautiful Anna Carona, the queen adored by the indigenous people, did not have the chance to spread her own civilization long before Isabella the Catholic. We have yet to pay any tribute to the indigenous people. This is not mere negligence or an error. It's a moral failing. We are a forgetful people drawn to the exotic, and we love paradoxes. Would you believe it, mademoiselle? Facing the magnificent bay of our capital, we still have a statue of the Genovese navigator. And what is he doing there? He asked himself the same thing, I am sure. I do not know if it is to perpetuate the fact that at one moment of time that tactless conquistador who had landed uninvited at the head of a band of bloodthirsty mercenaries to torture the Indians, massacre them, and carry off their riches. Really? I don't see what he's doing there. Are they trying to prove that the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime? I haven't seen a statue of the Dulce in Addis Ababa or a statue of the Führer at Tel Aviv airport. For that matter, Kafka died far too soon. He missed the subject for a great book. But you aren't descended from the Indians. Once the Indians were exterminated, the search for the Spanish woman's god had to continue in the mines. Our forefathers purchased accordingly in various regions of Africa and transported like cattle in the holds of slave ships to the West Indies, took over the work in the mines and on the plantations. These wretched, uprooted souls, the damned of the earth, as Fanon would say, watered the Indian soil with their sweat, their blood, and whole manner of humiliation and suffering to turn this enchanted island into the most prosperous colony, the bread basket of France, the pearl of the West Indies, but also into a laboratory of human misery. One fine morning, they broke their chains to wrest weapons from their masters and drive them out. When they proclaimed their independence in the public square of Gonaives on Sunday, January 1st, 1804, they wrote the final page of the most dazzling epic of all time. I listened to you with a shiver. Happy people have no history. Yours is unique. It is the only slave revolt of its kind that I know of. But let us quickly return to the Indians, if you will. They interest me enormously. It was Nietzsche, after all, who said, those who did not survive did not deserve to live. I would ask you to please keep Nietzsche in his proper context, where he remained a humanist fighting against medieval metaphysics in order to give man his rightful place in the universe. This philosopher believed in human will, in human determination, in human power. Listen closely, mademoiselle. everything we know through men. How can one claim to be a leader of men while destroying them? Fanatics tore Nietzsche out of context to arrogate to themselves the right to destroy millions of defenseless people in the name of the most aberrant absurdity, racial superiority. Would the father of relativity, had he not fled, have perished because he did not deserve to live? Based on the racist theory, one might as well burn the Declaration of Human Rights, abandon the struggle for human dignity and for gender equality, a cause I am passionately committed to, and quickly seek refuge with the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I do not believe that these horrific genocides and heinous acts of selection can be explained by scraps of Nietzsche or Darwin. It grants far too much encouragement to hold those modern day destroyers of Indians, to hold those village tyrants, to hold those smug dictators comfortably ensconced in their armchairs atop thousands of corpses. They need only brandish Nietzsche to ease their consciences and rejoice in having helped wiped out legions of dissenters or suspects deemed unworthy of life. These senseless liquidations, mademoiselle, remind me instead of an Elizabethan poet who wrote, "Any man's death diminishes me." How can one find mitigating circumstances for the assassins, whether born in coats or in uniforms, who conceived, ordered, financed, and encouraged these grim executions? Be they academics, men with barely a primary education, or illiterates. I also agree with a great French writer of our time who maintains that under any circumstances, a person must have the opportunity to choose life. I look forward to reading your indictment. I am already burning with the desire to visit your island, to go and admire your beautiful country, to delve deeper into your wonderful history. It is a dream I can help you realize very soon, and with the greatest pleasure. In the meantime, under legal fiction of international law, the embassy is an extension of the country itself. I would like to invite you to share a glass of champagne on Haitian soil without ever leaving Paris. Oh, I love that. After charming her for half an hour, she followed me, gentlemen, onto national territory, her mind filled with our history. I experienced a series of possession trances. First, I was the high priest on the night of November 28th, and I led her into my bedroom for a new bois caïman ceremony. Let's call it the ebony wood ceremony. In the blink of an eye, I had cast off the affectations of the West. The gazelle before me was spellbound by the magic of the night, African deep, mysterious, and bewitching. I devoured her with my eyes, and she made my head spin. Yes, gentlemen, I devoured her with the kind of lust and impatience you can well understand. She moved slowly toward me, clinging in unconditional surrender, like a supple vine winding around an ancient tree. I seized her to drink in her soul with a kiss as long, as wet, and as voluptuous as the eternal mystical embrace of the blue and white Nile at Khartoum. A sensational spectacle, gentlemen. Suddenly, I channeled our brilliant forerunner at the snake ravine. Like that great captain, I moved with the same dexterity and speed, tracing the curves of her body and exploring those two lovely mandarins, while my frenzied fingers roamed up and down the smooth, velvety surface of her slender frame, igniting the three levels of her being just as the monarch, torch in hand, once set the four corners of Cap Française ablaze. She was at the height of ecstasy. Her mind, her heart, and her senses were in fever pitch. In a sudden surge of energy, I felt myself possessed by the fierce spirit of the hero of Vertières. But Greta Pirot was my precise objective. Weapon drawn and in a fury, I hacked my way through the underbrush and stormed into the fort, shouting like the emperor, liberty or death. I am master of this fort. She trembled beneath my conquering bow. What speed, what harmony, Africa mingled with Europe. What synchronicity, what an outpouring across all four dimensions. But above all, gentlemen, what a victory. It was the victory of the slave paying back the colonist in kind. The colonist who, in a moment of lust, had forced her Dahomean ancestor beneath the tropical sun in the middle of a coffee plantation. Her grateful moans filled the room and reached my ears like an aphrodisiac symphony. She sang her love to me. She cried out her pleasure. When the crucial moment arrived, gentlemen, Africa, the entire black continent, bathed Europe. I tried to recover from my ardent exertions and gazed upon the languor of her beautiful eyes, like two lakes asleep under the light of the full moon. As she ran her small artist fingers over my sweat-drenched chest, she whispered softly, Oh, Africa, you always hold something rare in store for us. It was Monte speaking through her lips amidst the batches of human cargo delivered here and there across the Americas. Monte had already foreseen that a young slave woman, marked by destiny and sold in Haiti, would seduce her master and give birth to the first of the Dumas line. That is why France can say to whole nations today with the utmost pride, which of you has produced 3 Dumas in a single century? Montaigne also foresaw that Africa, cradle of whole civilizations, would inspire the immense talent of Picasso to revolutionize painting. My darling, can we count the masterpieces we have created together? Whenever day joins night, it gives birth to the dawn, which is more beautiful than either. She snuggled against me, trying to regain her balance. I opened wide both arms in that magnanimous gesture that made the Republican the father of Pan-Americanisms, and I wrapped her in a garland of love. Then she uttered that cry from the heart and senses. I have always been drawn to Ebonywood. That attraction, I told her. Why? That is the very definition of surrealism, which is French culture's tribute to rediscovered African culture. We have just experienced the symbiosis of our virtues. Rejoice, my dear. You are the contribution of French genius to rediscovered African genius. You are wonderful. You are adorable. Gentlemen, I have vindicated the race. I have solved the problem of Prince Hamlet. The question of to be or not to be does not trouble us. Whenever that great visionary, who, according to Lamartine, was a nation unto himself, was asked how he intended to get rid of the colonists, he would ceaselessly repeat, take their own weapons and show them the door. I have taken their own weapons. I have used the most beautiful of languages spoken by the greatest geniuses ever to appear on the earth, with the delightful, in league with a true blue-eyed daughter of the Gauls, and I have avenged the race. Let us take up this battle of Rome, gentlemen, this 5-star battle containing the burning song of our beloved island and the spirit of our glorious ancestors. Let us pour the 3 ritual drops to thank the Indians, the valiant warriors, the barefoot rebels, and the Maroons who gave us this homeland through iron, fire, and blood. May they continue to support the Imambwe brothers in their grueling struggle right up to the final victory at the close of the 20th century against racism. The most tenacious, the most infuriating, and the most ferocious kind found in the hellscape of Rhodesia and South Africa. We shall also toast with champagne, gentlemen. The liquid gold will gush into the crystals, sparkling, dancing, and singing of our triumph. I have avenged the race, and behold, history, psychology, philosophy, ethnology, ecology, strategy, epic tales, literature, poetry, all of it in the service of fornications.